We're good to go. Good evening. This is the February 10th, 2026 open public meeting of the Needham Library Board of Trustees, being held via hybrid format, allowing remote attendance. First, I will take a roll call to confirm that trustees, library staff, and persons anticipated to be on the agenda are present and can hear me. For trustees, Kay Cahill. Here. Erhard Grape. Here. Jay Fialkov. Here. Michael O'Neill. Here. Megan Small. Here. Joshua Small. Here. And me, Rob Pettit. For library staff, we have Library Director Robert McLean. Here. Assistant Library Director Diana Fendler. Here. Administrative Specialist Jenna White. Here. And Recording Secretary Faith Chrisley. Here. And for other attendees, we have Liz LaRose, Assistant Town Manager. Welcome. This meeting is being recorded. If there is a problem that prevents the completion of this meeting, we will reconvene at 7 p.m. on March 10th, 2026. I hereby call this meeting of the Needham Board of Library Trustees to order at 7:03 p.m. For public comments, citizens are welcome to speak for up to 3 minutes each, not to exceed a total of 10 minutes. Citizens are encouraged to inform the library director in advance of their intention to speak. Those who provide advance notice will be called upon first. While the board will take public comments under advisement, there may be no opportunity for discussion or debate during this portion of the meeting. For minutes, I request a motion to approve the minutes of the January 13th, 2026 meeting. Then we can discuss. So moved. Second. All right, open for discussion. Hearing no comments to the minutes, we can move to a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great, the motion passes unanimously, and thank you, Faith, for those minutes.
Thank you, Faith.
So next up, that brings us to our guests. Liz LaRose, feel free to grab a chair up here.
You want to sit right over here in the middle?
Oh, the middle, huh?
Yeah, why not? That way everybody can see you.
Office
Put the spotlights
vibes.
on you.
Hey, everybody. I'm Liz LaRose. I'm the Deputy Town Manager for the town of Needham. I'm wicked excited to be here. Sorry. I do not. Yeah, I thought so. I do not have a whole big update. I watched Katie's meeting with you all 2 meetings ago. I just wanted to introduce myself and let you know that I'm here. Should you have any questions or concerns, I'd be happy to liaise with you. I can tell you a little bit about my background. I actually did work here as a reference librarian for about 1.5 to 2 years right before the pandemic. So I got a good sense of the library and how it's run and the community. And I've been working with Rob for the past 5 months. We meet weekly, and the library is just doing such amazing things in the town. We had a joint meeting of all of the different programming departments the other day, and the library is already doing so many joint programs and collaborating with all of the different town departments. It's just wonderful to see.
It is. We're really happy with the level of programming and interaction with the community.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone has any, like I said, I was going to keep it short and just introduce myself. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
So it'd be great to hear a little bit, we've been seeing kind of where things are going with the budget process right now. And, there were a couple of DSR4s. We had one that was out there for a part-time teen librarian, which is going to be extra important with our teen room, which is opening up in a couple of months. And, we've seen kind of where it's gone in the process. Just for a snapshot of where things are at right now, we know that there's a reconciliation process underway, but have you heard anything on that?
Yes, so I will preface this with I was a teen librarian for 6 years. I was a young adult librarian, and I understand how important that position is and how important it is for the youth in this town. And I remember seeing 100 teenagers come here after school every day. Maybe 200.
Wasn't that a great site?
Yes, it's
No,
a wonderful
really
site and interacting with, and also respectful and wonderful. So I'll preface the conversation with that. I know that the town manager did recommend the DSR4 in her recommended budget, but the budget that does go to town meeting that goes on the warrant is the FinCom's budget, and they did vote on last Wednesday night to not recommend that. Mm-hmm. So that is where it is in the process. So it's been voted.
But isn't there some process where the town manager then kind of reconciles the question? My understanding of reconciliation is the town manager then can, take what the finance committee recommended and make adjustments, she has the power to do that or not?
I don't believe that's part of the process. I am newer here and I can look into that for you, but from what I am aware of, I do not believe that is part of the process.
And so that would, as I understand it, would just be a recommendation for town meeting. Is that what we're talking about?
I think we need to clarify what the process, but it sounds generally the budget that goes to town meeting is what FinCom recommends.
Yeah.
The town meeting can add if they choose to.
Can they make adjustments? Is it customary for there to be conversations about
It's possible.
certain points?
Yeah, it's possible, and there is a mechanism for doing that. You have to work in advance to figure out a appropriate proposal that adds money that you want and subtracts it from somewhere else, and that has to be then accepted as then an amendment that is voted on as part of the budget, and then so there is a mechanism by which you can.
Do you know if it has ever been done?
I mean, I've only been on the.
Okay, I'm just curious because it's important, we want to consider all our options.
We have to take money away from somebody else because the budget has to be level at the result at the end of that event.
So I don't want to put you on the spot, but who would you first take money away from?
I could look at this a different way for you though, and it's not going to answer your question at all, but it might be helpful for next year. I'm not sure if anyone watched the finance committee meeting last Wednesday and the discussion that they had about this particular position. So the discussion was centered around, well, first of all, it was centered around the fact that they are where the library has other funding, state aid, that they could utilize. I think maybe some more education around the idea that that is not the best use of those funds would be helpful for the future.
Talking with the finance committee members to describe what the state aid money is for and what our policy is around that.
Exactly. And I think a lot of the discussion was also around just seeing what happens when the teen room opens instead of preemptively hiring someone to staff that space. So I think that Rob and I have already had some discussions about some ideas to make a better case for next year.
Okay, and we like the idea of Rob and you partnering to figure out how you understand next year we have a larger issue, relating to, the continuing of the renovations, which we've put on hold out of sensitivity to the town's budget situation this year, but which our plan is to push strongly, starting with you and for you to be hopefully an advocate for us, to help make that happen. That's a primary thing in the back of our minds for now to pick up where we left off, right?
Yeah, and the Wait What See is also 14 months away before the next town meeting will be able to vote on it. Because the teen room's opening in March of 26.
Possibly. I think it's delayed.
I didn't hear that part, so I'm sure Rob will talk about
we'll
that.
get into that.
April of 26, so it's 13 months, and the next time meeting that we'll be able to vote for it would be in May of 27.
Yeah, it just seemed like a very small, it's not a huge amount of money, but it's being removed at a very crucial moment where it's needed, which is just as we're about to open this new space which the town has invested in to then pull out the staffing of it is very,
Agreed. It's
bad timing.
Short-sighted, in my opinion, in that we have this great new space, but we don't have someone to staff it and to really use it to, its biggest potential to help all of the teams who will be there. So I agree with Kay. I also wanted to express my displeasure at that decision. And
It seemed like they didn't understand anything about how the library actually runs in the meeting. I watched it.
There was discussion about the current reference teen librarian and the percentage of work that person does with teenagers. I will say, I'm just going to echo what Katie said in that a lot of departments came forward with a lot of things that are absolutely necessary, including this. This is like a necessary thing, and I agree, but it's just prioritizing the funding around those things.
And also the library is open till 9 o'clock every night, 6 days a week. And so, we have this big renovated space, which, needs to be staffed. So, and Saturdays, we're open on Saturdays. Unlike many departments in town that are not open the number of hours that we are, we're open 7 days a week. So to take it's $35,000, not a huge figure in the overall town budget, so anyway.
Earhart.
Like,
So I watched the discussion as well, and I think I'm fine if they are cutting funds from the library because they need to cut funds to balance the budget. What I'm less happy about is that the justification for that was not based on the actual need for the DSR4. So the argument that was made by the FinCom committee members as regards to what this position was for were wrong. Yeah, right? That this was not about new programming. There was a new space in which we were staffing. It was not about additional programming that reference librarian would be providing. It was about staffing a space that it now needs to be staffed, right? And so that fundamental misunderstanding about the responsibility of this person, that we need to make sure is corrected in the future. We should not have a situation in which Finance Committee is not discussing the merits of that position based on what it is actually for. And so whatever we need to do to provide the necessary education for them, I want to make sure that that is not the case.
Would it be appropriate for the trustees to prepare some sort of written response to this and share it, send it to the town and share it with the observer or potential town meeting members? Would that be appropriate?
I don't know that it changes the situation right now,
Uh-huh.
or that helps us in any meaningful way.
Yep.
This is just my opinion at this point. But, the argument that was made about the money was that this amount of money was being taken from other people's budgets. And so it was nice that this was all in one item that they could scratch off, right? So that's where it comes down to the money, which is fine. Like, I understand the need to cut the budget down to a certain thing. But then the justifications for why they thought that this position was not necessary and could be funded by the library in some other way, or was purely a function of new programming that we could be exploring as opposed to a existing need based on the space, that's the problem.
And I'm concerned because it seems to me it reflects, that it doesn't fully value the priority of the library, and it makes me nervous about what's going to happen next in terms of continuing with the renovation, because
I'm very nervous about that.
Because we would think that the town would want to make clear, we've always made the case that the library is so important to the value of the town, and it adds value to the town. And when people move here and want to live here and work here, they do it for, among other things, that they want to live in a town that has a library like this. So this is an immediate concern in terms of staffing that needs to happen, but it's a larger concern in terms of the town reflecting how important this library is to the community, I think.
It's really the cultural center of Needham.
Well, I think what Earhart just said was critically important for us as a board of trustees. And what Jay was also saying, I think it's imperative that we put something out just so that there's clarification. If you're saying that how you just said what you said, Earhart, then it resonated with me, is that this is an important thing to put forth so people will understand, so there won't be that misunderstanding that it's just a line item, but there's really some real pith to what this will affect in terms of making something that is, the staff here is making something work that is valuable and viable, but then to be somewhat crippled. It's almost being short-sighted.
You should know, we're not giving you a hard time. This is,
No.
This is where you need to start drinking the Kool-Aid. You know what I mean? In terms of how we're thinking about all
Sorry,
this.
is part of it, do we think, because they didn't discuss it last year? Like, for us, this is the second year in a row that we've requested it, but it didn't get to finance committee last year because it wasn't part of the town manager's budget.
But I think it was not part of the town manager.
It wasn't,
not,
so
yeah.
then finance committee wouldn't have seen it. Okay, because so that's like, that makes it feel
This is the
harder
first
on
time
us,
they've
'cause
seen
this is two years in a row, we've lost it, but finance committee didn't understand.
But we didn't have a letter. We
Yeah.
didn't write a letter
Right.
to FinCom
And so that
justifying this, which is an omission on our part.
Now we know.
I'm curious, maybe this is, Rob, for us to know, and for you also, what's the result of this in terms of the impact on the operations of this teen space in the library, just so that we're clear on what we're sacrificing.
Right. So we have to now sit down with our reference supervisor and work out a schedule about when we can have reference librarians in the space staffing it. But beyond that, everybody needs to really tamp down their expectations of increased programs and services to this population in this new space, which is going to be really popular and attracting a lot of people. So we won't be able to match the grandeur of the physical space with our programming and services for teen patrons.
I can add that this is a good it's not a wonderful situation, but it's a good opportunity to educate others with the data we're able to collect over the next year, not having that person, right?
I don't know how you measure what you don't have.
The absence.
Well, I mean, no, we can.
Yeah,
We can
public.
absolutely
Yeah.
measure the counterfactual because we'll be living it. So we can talk about the number of folks that are in there, the number of hours that are
Yes, but you don't know what
missed
program.
opportunities for programming. Right, we can quantify all of that.
Surveys, yeah,
Yeah.
there's plenty of ways, I think, to get some data for that. So although it's not an ideal situation, there's ways that we can try to make it better for next year.
In the past, oh, sorry, go ahead, Kat.
Well, I was just gonna say, is there something this year that we can do to go before town meeting? When, there's several of us here who are town meeting members, to ask for this, ask for town meeting to approve this amount.
Well, that's the question I asked, and that's
Wondering
where
what that
Earhart says
process
is
would be.
the process.
Politically, I think we have to consider that it could be a Pyrrhic victory, even if it worked out. Because necessarily we're going to be taking that funding away from somebody else,
Yeah.
but also shining a great big spotlight
yeah.
on it.
It's not that we can just ask town meeting for it. We'd have to propose that they take it away from, Parks and Recs or whatever.
And we've always valued collaborating with the town. The town's always been, for as long as I've been involved, a wonderful partner and a supportive partner, and helped the library get to the point right now where it is so great. But there's a lot at stake, for now and going forward. In terms of collecting data, we were imagining in terms of making the case for the next stage of the renovation, that it'll be helpful to see how successful the teen space is. And it's a shame we're not really able to take advantage of that. It really depletes the momentum, but we'll have to I'm sorry.
Just to add on to the politics, if we're pushing for a design phase for a design study for the next phase, we don't want the interpretation by finance committee and town meeting to be that, every time they do a new phase, they have to hire more people, right? And build that into the annual budget, right? We don't want them to make that assumption. That is a specific case with the teen room, right? And the way that is organized, because it has a brand new reference desk in it.
Yeah.
Right. But we don't want the assumption to be the mental model to be like, if we're going to approve this design thing, we're also going to then have to approve this thing. And so why would we fund that design thing? Because we know we're not going to have the money to fund that FTE following it.
And the one other thing you should be aware of is it's been sort of our understanding, that from the town's point of view, it's really the plan to approve the funding for the design goes hand in hand with the anticipated plan to do the funding. That it's not simply a commitment to the design phase. I think it's been understood as sort of a commitment to go forward with
The construction.
That's
That's just best practice.
Yes.
It really is.
One last sort of ray of hope is that we can decide if we do, in fact, are willing to do what the finance committee has asked, basically, is to fund this position with state aid. And if we were to do that, that would give us the ability to go back next year and say, okay, we've done the pilot of 1 year's worth, we've used the state aid. Now we would like this to be part of the regular, town budget funding. I don't know if that makes sense. Yes, no?
I mean, I don't know if we want to talk about this at this point in the agenda, because we actually have another space where we could talk about that.
Yeah, okay. So
But I was going to bring that up when we talk about this.
Okay, yeah.
And sorry, and then one more thing just on the staffing, I don't know if anybody has mentioned to you, but we have been looking into doing a staffing analysis and have had issues with the turnover because of all of the part-time positions. And I know that's a really steep hill to battle against the town as well, but just wanted to clue you in that that's something that we
That's a
have
good,
looked at and.
Thank you,
will
Megan.
that's a
continue.
good point. Yeah, it's been on our minds.
Great point.
That was actually a comment brought up by the FinCom, saying that it might be best to wait until the results of that study to fund a position.
That's good.
Get counted against.
Did they wait?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they mentioned it
Yeah,
explicitly.
Yes.
One thing I just mentioned, in working with the FinCom, there have certainly been times in the past where perhaps proposals were not fully understood or not fully appreciated. What has worked best in the few years that I've been on the board is when we directly interface with them. Certainly a letter could help, and maybe we can put our heads together on what that might look like, and we can dummy it up and bring it to a meeting. But also just the person-to-person interaction. If you know somebody on FinCom, or even if there's an opportunity, and I can talk with Liz and Katie about it, there's an opportunity just for a couple of us to get in front of them and just talk about what we're doing at the library generally, aside from just this. Getting that out there and getting that understanding is probably ultimately the best way to get to a yes, rather than just kind of correcting. There's correcting to be done, but kind of explaining further and just kind of hammering in that we can't pay this out of state aid every year. State aid is not for salaries or wages. It's for truly experimental things, and that there is an immediate need for this. When we can have that direct interaction, that seems to work the best.
And when the finance committee is taking up our budget, there's where we should be there. As you remember last year, we attended the senior center, the Center for the Heights was there. They brought in some seniors to advocate for what they were looking for in terms of money for their kitchen, money for their entrances. I mean, they had people speak directly to the FinCom during the meeting, and so they did some advocacy very actively during the FinCom. I think we may need to start doing that.
And I suppose it can be done at the town meeting, even if you don't expect it's going to change the outcome. Just to make them, make town meeting members aware of what we're talking about. No, I'm not a town meeting member.
Considering the way that this goes, usually the town budget passes without discussion. And you kind of want that on average.
Right.
Now, there are things that FinCom can miss, and very important priorities that might be missing, and you would want those to be deliberated. But I don't know if we want the library to be the only one that's holding up the entire town budget.
There might be some goodwill.
I'm thinking out loud, and half the time when I do that, I disagree with myself, so it's okay.
Hang on to that conversation, right?
So anything else we wanted to share with Liz? Anything, Liz, that you wanted to share with us?
No, I think I heard more than I. No, but my email's on the website. Rob can connect you with me if anyone has anything else that they want to talk about later. I'm happy to give you my cell phone, whatever you need.
Well, welcome. Thank you.
And we're thrilled that you're on board with us, and
we appreciate it.
You got the full tilt.
I'm thrilled to be here. This is an amazing library.
And such an impressive team. Some of us who've been working as trustees for a long time, can't express how happy we are with the leadership and the team and the staff of the library and what they do with the place.
I thought I was an organized library director until I met Rob.
Well, thank you, Liz.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
That brings us to the next item in the agenda, which is the director's report.
Thanks, Rob. Start with some of the department highlights that I have here on the report. Starting with the Children's Department, we kicked off in January the community leader story time with town manager Katie King. So she had a good crowd. Paula picked out the perfect picture books that highlighted urban life and the use of public works to build better lives for families. So it was really a great event. So we say thank you to Katie for kicking that off. And the second one was held this morning with Ginny, the public nurse for the town of Needham, who read picture books related to health and wellness.
And we have the police chief coming up soon,
Yes.
right?
Yep. So,
That's great.
thanks to Paula and her team for pulling that all together. That was part of the FY26 action.
How many kids come to something like that?
I think Katie had around 35 or so, and this morning there were 32 for Ginny.
That's great.
It's sort of, the timing is nice because we're transitioning out of the construction story time series, so now we've got this community leader story time. And just had a member of the community reach out to us about their executive director perhaps being another community leader to do story time for us. So hopefully this is something that takes off and can continue on a regular basis. The fourth bullet, I just wanted to bring your attention that we're participating again in neighborhood trees for Arbor Day and also for the NBLC's annual PJ Drive, which they work in conjunction with the Boston Bruins. Both of these things are wonderful, sort of part of our community engagement, but not us going outside the building, but working with kids and families to understand the importance of the environment. And with neighborhood trees, they'll get a tree that they will plant in their yard. With PJ Drive, we hope to be one of the leading libraries in the state to collect pajamas for families in need.
Competition.
Yeah, so there's a healthy competition, and every year the NBLC leads an effort that results in thousands of PJs being.
We'll start looking for our old PJs.
Not old.
Oh, I'm sorry. You want new PJs?
And for kids.
Hang on to your old bunny feet.
Your old pajamas you can donate to like.
So the green bucket is out by the circulation desk if you want to drop off pajamas for the next month or so.
I'll get you new ones.
Thank you. Circulation department, just wanted the last bullet. I just want to highlight that we have been incredibly busy this winter, particularly the Saturday before the large storm, when across the network it was the busiest day since the pandemic. And so it was quite busy here, and so we applaud the circulation staff who provided all that work on that particular Saturday. But
thank you, Steph.
Yep, so Needham was well stocked up, not just with groceries, but with books for that storm. So in addition to our digital offerings, which I'll get to in a second. Under tech services, I love stuff like this where it's like we just get some real practical, impactful work done that is really meaningful, even though it's behind the scenes and you'll never know about it. But so tech services worked to reduce the backlog of missing items by almost 400 items by working with the staff of the Minuteman Library Network. So that was a great project.
What does that mean exactly? I'm not sure I understand.
So each month we have a report of missing items from the collection. So sometimes those have just been misshelved here.
I see. It's not stuff that hasn't been returned.
It could be. It could be a patron who thinks they returned something. We ask them kindly to, please look under the beds again or under your car seat again. But if they're insistent, I did return it and it's missing, it gets on the missing or lost list. So we're able to work with them to clean that up so that our staff are spending less time looking for things that we know are actually lost.
I can give you an example, Jay. When I was paging, I took a DVD out, the number didn't match. So they found it in the other. It wasn't, it had to be cataloged differently with tech services. And they were very excited because otherwise it wouldn't have been found.
Got it.
Good job.
No, it made me, it was, they were very excited, made me feel very happy. I found something.
Thank you.
So that's like detail that
Got it.
makes people happy.
Yeah, it does. It makes us very happy. So, moving on to reference, what I just was referencing about high checkouts. So January was our highest month ever for Libby checkouts. So just over 12,200 checkouts from Libby. So that's our vendor over.
Was there a big spike during the snowstorm?
I didn't look at the daily.
Just out of curiosity.
I'll look and get back to you on that. It was also a big month for Hoopla and Canopy, which are also part of our digital collections. Just making notes. Community engagement. So this is sort of a newer section to the Directors Board. Just think it's important to let you know when we are going beyond the library or engaging with partners in the town. So there's some efforts listed here. Again, the Environmental Action Club across the street reach out to us. So we're happy to be a drop-off location right after the holidays, so the month of January. They had to come several times to pick up all that was donated. So they were very happy. They're collecting used electronics and also holiday lights to raise money for the preservation of the habitats of lions and gorillas. So that was great. And that was facilitated by Hans, the teacher over there who runs the makerspace. Also, we had, you may have seen the town's posters for the Stephen Palmer committee work that's going on. So those were for the month of January. So it was great to get that information out to patrons and residents. And luckily, since the gallery wall doesn't have art, because of the construction, we were able to use that real estate to do that. So as soon as that came down, we put up the Envision Needham posters, which are up there now. So that's also just part of being a resource for town departments and the community to get information out to people.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes.
So those walls, I mean, I don't mind using it at all, like those where you put the Envision posters and stuff like that, are technically probably under our art policy as opposed to under like our signage policy, because our signage policy I think only applies here. I'm just curious, like.
That's a good point. I didn't talk to Kay, so I
I mean, obviously it's fine, but like I'm just curious, like.
Right.
If we were to do that in the future for.
Maybe we clarify that. This is unusual because every month there's actually is art.
Posters out.
Right. I didn't. And we sort of meet when needed.
Right.
So even if I thought about it, I would have had to call a special meeting.
No, it's
yeah.
I think we're not.
I just did. I didn't think about
that. No, I mean, again, but like just, I guess going forward in the future, if there's something else that may or may not be more controversial than
during the construction, we kind of galleries closed, so we haven't been meeting to fill the gallery.
I understand why. But I'm wondering if in the future, if the town wanted to use that space for something else, could they request it?
They could request. The answer would be no, because we're starting up the art again, starting in April, March actually. So
we're starting the art again.
We have it scheduled out for the rest of 2026.
I mean, people can always request, but if there's something really amazingly compelling, I suppose we would consider it.
We have other ways to get the word out to patrons. We've done that with the town departments, so we'll continue to do that. This was just a nice opportunity because right, and there were these great visuals that provide lots of good information, and we had the space. In the future, it could be more of like easels that we find space to display, not so much on a wall, but good point. Also, I just want to let you know that you have from now until February 14th to submit your poems as part of the Needham Poems initiative. So if you've crafted something spectacular or not that it doesn't exceed 10 lines, please send it to us. We'll meet and select the quote-unquote winners, and those works in 3 age groups, kids, teens, and adults, will be displayed for the month of April, which is National Poetry Month, here at the library as well as at the CAF and at Town Hall. We will also then display these poems at Nina Open Studios as a second year of connecting the literary arts with the visual arts there. So we have lots of.
I was just
Oh,
wondering
sorry.
what that date was again. It's all right.
Valentine's Day.
Oh, the 14th to,
Yeah,
is that
that's
the
it.
cutoff?
That's the
Yeah,
deadline.
events. It's been
Coming
open for, since the beginning of January.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Ann Item is coming to the end of her reign at the end of June. And part of the work that she's done is workshops with kids and teens and adults and seniors about poetry and writing poetry. So this is an opportunity for us to.
She's been great.
To have
She's-
Oh, to
them
honor.
write.
Oh, have them
Yeah,
write,
She's
yes.
written and she's instructed
I
on
see. She's
writing.
inspiring
So
the people
now we
to
want
write.
to see the
Yeah.
results of that.
But she's been great.
Yeah.
She's been fantastic. Yeah.
We've been lucky to have her.
Yeah. And so we want to thank Jay for staying on the selection committee for the next poet laureate. Moving on under personnel, Jackie Bateman received a scholarship from the ALA for a series about AI, and she will finish that up in in the next week or so. So congrats to Jackie for that. Next Tuesday.
May I just ask, I think it would be fascinating perhaps for us to hear, 5 minutes from her when she does that about how does AI dovetail with public libraries? How is that going to change or move things in public libraries?
Yeah. Yes, perfect. We are incorporating a speaker from the Mass Library System into our staff development day in March to talk about AI and public libraries.
Oh, really? Okay.
So this is a big topic that is impacting our work.
Is that something we'd be able to attend? I'm just curious also.
Yeah, I think we'd love to hear about it or.
Let me get back to you on that.
Not necessarily.
I think we
I
just
think it's very
we're
interesting.
nailing down the time on that
Okay.
speaker, but yeah, it's a big
That would be helpful.
topic,
Yeah, it
and we
is.
don't want to get being behind on that.
You can't get AI to be a reference librarian in the teen area.
Chatbot.
Not
You
yet.
get one of those mall robots that just goes around and beeps at people, but those don't seem to do much. They end up dumped into fountains and stuff.
With the vacuum cleaner. The robotic vacuum cleaner.
Next Tuesday, we have 2 full-time library assistants starting their first day. So these positions became open when Karen became the supervisor for circulation and Kelsey moved on to the children's department. So we're really excited to welcome Emma and Annika next Tuesday to our team. So you'll see a couple new faces. Ginny Richmond was working part-time in the circulation department and has moved to the tech services department. So she'll start in 2 weeks in that department. That position became open because Andy, who was working part-time in tech services, moved into the full-time position in tech services because Luann retired. So this is all good because, and I should say, Kelsey moved to children's because Elliot moved on to another library. So we've had lots of nice promotions within the library, which is great to keep these people here.
Great.
In work that they're excited to do. So we have Ginny's position that will be posting in the next couple of weeks in the circulation department. And we have the children's reference librarian position that will be posting. Emily left on February 1st was her last day. So we have those 2 positions that are still open. Moving on to the teen room. So last week, there were a few updates that impact the opening of the teen room. So we're looking to open in the first half of April with probably the end of the week before April vacation week being the outer limit of that new period. We had been looking at mid-March, There are three things that are making mid-March not possible. The shelving is going to arrive the week of March 16th. So that will take 3 days to be delivered and installed, and we can't move the collection in there until that work is done. The pods for the quiet study room are arriving on March 30th. Yes, and the millwork in the quiet study room, which is sort of the wall of wood that is protecting us from the scorching sun. That work will be complete on March 23rd. The week of March 23rd, or is it March 23rd? It's sometimes it's like the day, but mostly it's the week of, which is wiggle room. Anyways, these three things aren't allowing us to open the new team room in mid-March. So tomorrow we have our weekly meeting and hope to get even more clarity on these delays and the real, we're getting an updated timeline for the end of the project. We always have a 3-week look ahead, but we'll get a full timeline through the end of the project. So
how long will it take to move the collection in, and is there extra staff time budgeted for that?
There's no extra staff time budgeted for that, but we do have extra funds available because of vacancies that we can use for some part-time staff to put in extra hours if they want to. The work will occur not all at once.
No, of course not. But it still seems like it's a lot of physical labor moving thousands of books.
Yes.
Into there.
Yeah. It is. It is thousands of books. So it's the collection that's in the Bosworth room. It's the collection that's in front of the 3 study rooms, which is the teen fiction. The teen nonfiction is at the end of adult nonfiction, and then we have 65 boxes that are in the ILL room.
Can you get high school students to help?
No, this is going to be
that room.
Yeah. This is going to be very complicated because we have to interfile.
I meant just the physical labor part.
Yeah, no, we all chip in, and we made it happen on the coming out of the space, and we'll just work with our staff and our librarians and.
What about the trustees?
So we just are adjusting, moving the timeline for that work when the shelving is now being completed.
Would there be plans for some sort of special event, when the space is open, to ceremony of sorts for the town and things like that? You'll have all that.
Yeah, so luckily we haven't printed the invitations yet. So we got to recycle them all. But we definitely are going to have a ribbon cutting and a party with food.
So what's our dates that were anticipated?
I think the first half. Ideally, it would be for the vacation week. So it's to do with moving the collection in, training staff in the space, and testing technology in there, and the training regarding the technology there, and yeah, so hopefully we'll have more information so we can maybe start to put some hard dates to what I'm saying.
If it's not too much trouble, if at some point you have some options of dates you're considering for the event, if you can give us a heads up, so because I know hopefully we would all like to be able to attend if we can, if there's a way to.
Yeah, a couple of things we were thinking of is having this ribbon cutting ceremony when the high school is not in session. So at perhaps like a 3 p.m. weekday type of thing where there's a great built-in audience of people who are going to be coming in to see it.
And they should be part of the celebration.
right?
It's,
Yeah.
it's
That's-
fall for
It's a
them.
celebration. I understand.
Very
Yeah.
strange, there was a
But,
bunch of gray hairs.
That's
Flooding the space.
But,
great.
Is
Yeah.
April vacation like, the week of the 15th or 16th, or is it later than that?
20th.
The 20th late this year,
Okay,
so we could,
Yeah,
yes, we
the
could the
third.
20th.
week of the 20th.
Marathon Monday, is April 20th.
Question, you have a bullet item that says the project is on budget. Is that different from the prior bullets that said the project was under budget? Does that mean we're closer to budget? How is it being affected by these delays?
no, we're still under budget in the sense that, the contingency is, we still have $280,000 and, yeah, it was just, part of Hank's email, one of his bullets, and I thought, this is good news. So
Yeah,
from on to under, yeah, there's no impact on the delays. Some of the delays, there are some changes we may seek from tower construction that we may not have to pay for because of these delays.
oh, okay.
So, but there are no budget impacts, negative budget impacts to us.
Good. Okay. Relevant for our later conversation.
So we had a great meeting last week with Mark Messias and Will from ITS about the work they'll be doing installing some of the audiovisual technology in the team room. So that's moving along. So moving on to financial reports. First one I included was the operating budget report for FY26. One thing you may have noted, well, I'll note it for you if you haven't noted, is the difference in spending on books, periodicals, and audiovisual and databases since last meeting. So you can see since the last report, we spent over $43,000 on that, with a total spent to date of $148,000. So we did, so a lot of invoices came in since our last meeting. I think Ingram is more well-staffed now, with the demise of Baker and Taylor, and getting us our bills, and we're cranked through processing all that and paying them. So just want to note that. So we're on track overall for our operating budget for this fiscal year. We'll probably have some sort of turn back of salary monies related to vacancies, even if we are able to offer up some extra hours to help with the relocation of the team collection. We do expect not to fully expend our salary line item this year. Which doesn't mean we don't need all of it next year. There are just circumstances that we can't plan for. Moving on to the next. We have the state aid account report. So again, our expenditures for this month track against the spending plan that you approved for FY26, until just over $5,000 since our last meeting. With the encumbrances listed below, showing that we have the spending plan for the full amount of library state aid. Just looking to see if there's anything interesting there. The last item under expenditures is related to one of our FY26 action items, which is hiring their archival consultant to work with us. So she started in early January and has done some good work, has a draft report already, and I'll be meeting with her tomorrow afternoon to go over it and give more guidance. The work will be done by the end of March, which would be nice, and will play into our back to worry about the FY27 action plan, so we can build on that work and take some next steps based on that report.
At some point, if we could get a little description or summary of what, I feel like the archives are a little bit of a mystery to me. And so it's interesting and great that we have a consultant working on this.
This report, yes, has a history of our archives, and it'll be exactly what you'll want to read. Yeah, so we'll definitely share that with trustees.
Question? So here's why I wanted to bring back the conversation about the team reference librarian, part-time team librarian. Because one of the things that was brought up by FinCom and is worth discussing is the idea that we would use state aid money to hire a part-time team librarian. Now, the number that was in the budget was 32 or 34,000 roughly. I think it was 34. I assume that included benefits. No.
Part-time.
Part-time, because this was part-time under the hours department. Okay.
Right, our 35,117 figure was just an hourly salary.
Just an hourly salary, okay. So what I'm looking at here is the emergency contingency for phase one, right? Mm-hmm. And so that is currently almost $80,000. And would be able to cover that for some period of time during a pilot run. Now, we've talked also about the fact that we don't want to hire people, which we would hope for long-term positions on this kind of soft money basis, which is what state aid is, rather than hard money, which would be part of the town budget on an ongoing basis. However, it might be worth this question of in two cases. One, showing our commitment to actually having that position and staffing that. We'll find a way to staff that to strengthen the argument that we want this position to stay. Two, it could be run as part of an experiment, which is what state aid is for. We could actually say there is a period of time in which we will not have this person until we hire them, and we will be collecting data on the use of the team room, the lack of programming, and other challenges that are posed by that. And then we have a natural experiment of when we hire somebody, maybe in response to those challenges, to say how that situation changes. And then we have a way to report on the value of that person in response to the challenges that we documented after first opening the space.
As compared to just deciding to use the state aid to fund the position from the beginning?
Right. So I'm laying out like the ways that we could think about this.
Yeah.
Right.
I think he's arguing.
Yeah, sure.
I think what he's arguing is use it, but we're not going to be able to hire the person in time for the team room to open. So therefore, it will be a natural experiment.
I see. So if it turns that's right.
The person doesn't get hired until July for however long it takes to hire somebody.
I don't know about that, but
But if we were planning to use state aid to fund the position, how soon would it realistically take in order to fill the position? I mean, I'm not sure we would want to delay just for the purpose of collecting data about what we're not accomplishing.
Well, it would be for fiscal year, 27, right? So it would start July 1st. Is that when we start our fiscal year? July 1st, right? Isn't that what we're talking about?
Well, I don't know. I mean, the money in the state aid is, quote, emergency contingency for construction cost overruns. I mean, this is still part of the team room. It's not a construction cost, but it is part of the team room itself.
Yeah.
Right. It's within our authority to allocate funds for the remainder of FY26.
Right.
We want to.
Okay, so
the town you'd have to talk to the town about hiring someone. That's the question, and what that timeline would take.
Rob, what are your thoughts on that?
Just to clarify, because I'm unsure if we're talking about FY27 or FY26 library state aid spending plans.
This would be
so my answer would be
this could be an amendment to the fiscal year 2026 funding plan if we deemed it a sufficient emergency to change over our encumbrances to accommodate this hire. It could be going forward post July or July onward higher, if we wanted to make it a fiscal year 27. But I'm saying we have money here. And the question is, what can we do with that? What are the logistics of doing that? What do we want to do?
Right, so I hear that. But if we wanted a period of time when there was nobody.
I don't think that's
I
a
don't think we
goal.
want that period of time, but I think just naturally there's going to be that period of time.
Or
There may
if
not
there
be
is-
much of one if this is a reallocation of an FY26
Right.
spending plan.
I'm laying
that-
out ideas.
Can you
Right,
theoretically
right,
hire
but I'm
someone?
So it could be immediate. We try and hire this person as quickly as possible so they are on the staff before this place opens.
And I guess one
It
thing,
could be the fact that, no, we're actually going to honor the state aid plan through, July 1. And then reevaluate and say, okay, based on everything we're understanding here, yes, we should absolutely make this a priority in our state aid funding plan for this going year. We approve that, we start the hiring July 1st, whatever. So that could be another way that we look at it. But there is a possibility that we spend our money in this way. I want to hear what you think, though, just about this idea in general.
The idea in general of using library CA to fund salaries is not a good one in my mind. I believe, or I would only feel comfortable in advertising this as a one-year temporary hire position because, which is going to affect the candidates who can apply or are interested in that type of position.
Right.
And I think, to an earlier point, this isn't, I think someone in finance committee mentioned that this is a new teen room, a new position, and therefore fell under the philosophy of spending for library state aid money, which I don't agree with. We could suggest that any new staff hire is new. And could get the same feedback. So for the library, not that it'd be easy, but to struggle and show that struggle for, 14, 15 months in the long term might be worth it to ensure that the philosophy that the trustees voted on in 2020 remains intact and doesn't have an asterisk on it.
And the town will know that the impact of the decision was because it was not appropriate to use state aid money. We went without the position and paid the consequence.
my understanding of this position is that this would have been needed regardless of whether or not we had the teen room being built. Like there was a need for this service anyway.
Right, I believe it's the third year it's been put forward.
I think that's important. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say it's an important distinction that this did not grow out of having the teen room. This grew out of a need for that position kind of organically. So it's not like this is just, we got a teen room, now we need this new position, which might be a misconception that we need to clear up with FinCom.
Just letting people know that it was really something always in queue, that this is something we saw coming and it was necessary. So.
But if we go without for a year, 14, 15 months,
Right.
then aren't we sort of demonstrating that we don't really need it? I mean, that would be one possible interpretation on the part of the powers that be in town, is that if we lived without it for a year, then we didn't turn out, we didn't really need it.
I mean,
Aren't we gonna get some kind of, I think what's important is that we have something to substantiate why we're asking for it, so that if there's something, a collection of data, which I think was brought forward earlier, the collection of data that shows that we're working at a deficit and that this position is necessary, is that the stance that we're gonna take, because either way, it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. So I think we're in an untenable situation. But I think we need to make the best informed one with the support of the staff, that is going to be able to be made as a good argument to the powers that be. I think that would be, maybe not the most ideal, but at least it's in play.
I understand the philosophical argument behind your point, and I think it's probably right. But when the rubber hits the road, I also don't want our staff to feel overworked, feel not supported, feel like part of turnover is not just that people are getting other jobs and there's part-time jobs, but part of turnover is that sometimes people at work, there's just too much work and they're like, I can't do this anymore. And I don't want to risk, and I don't know if any of our staff feels that way or your staff feels that way right now, but I can imagine that putting this extra responsibility onto people or asking the staff to do that could be the straw that breaks the camel's back and one of the staff members and causes, us to lose good people as well. And so I understand philosophically why using state aid for this is a bad idea, but I think also for the patrons of the library, for the staff of the library, sometimes philosophy versus practicality, you understand what I'm saying? I think it seems from a practical standpoint, it makes sense even though we don't agree with it philosophically.
Right. So, just to quickly jump in, we still will provide library service to everybody who comes into the building.
Right.
We just won't be able to do more that without a part-time team librarian to run more programs, to run more services. So it's that won't happen.
I thought that, am I misunderstanding that the position, this part-time position was going to take care of nights and Saturdays?
Yeah, it's Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday evenings, and every Saturday.
Right, so what happens if we don't have that position on Monday, Tuesday?
So there's not a dedicated staff member to be in the team room. We'll have to cobble together something. The person won't be available to run team programs.
Yeah.
Or to
Or if it's someone that gets pulled from another department, won't be able to run programs in that department either.
I guess, what do we think is the likelihood we're gonna be having this exact same conversation next year? Like, I don't know much about the town's finances. I know they're not great. I know we've been denied this request 3 years in a row, so is it worth another year of not having it? And then are we gonna be talking about maybe trying to, this contingency, I'm guessing is gonna go away. Like, are we gonna lose it, not be able to have something next year to use it?
No, that's our money that's in the state aid, bank account.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, I guess I'm just trying to balance, similar to what Josh is saying, what's the utility of waiting a year if we don't think it's likely that the town will give it
And then,
to us next
can I
year?
also ask one other question, something related to this contingency money, is if we do use this, or one other point, if we do use this contingency money theoretically for this, then there are other programs that we won't be able to use the state aid for. And I understand that, but I don't know if you guys, it's probably too early to start thinking, or maybe it isn't too early to start thinking about no, it's not too early. I don't know what you're shaking your head at, I'm sorry.
we have begun thinking about
About using this
things.
$80,000 for something else.
something big.
Right. And I guess the question is then, because we don't know what that is, so we don't talk about it yet, is that something that is worth giving up or considering giving up for this other project that we're discussing right now? And I don't know the.
Yeah, we're just not prepared because usually we don't start this conversation.
No, I'm not expecting you to be fair, right?
So,
Because we were hoping not to have this conversation.
right, exactly. Yes.
I guess the question in my mind is, if but if we're able to get comfortable, as a board with making this exception to, and I agree, this is very much outside of the spirit of our state aid policy that, this is meant to be a position that's recurring. But if we're able to get comfortable with making an exception to that, does it make sense then? To me, that's the big question.
Right. And by we, I hope that we includes the finance committee members, because they need to understand that this would be an exception.
We have to communicate that to them.
Like, not just us around this table, but.
Yeah.
And we could go, I mean, the argument is that they said, hey, they could try using state aid for this and we'll reconsider. And we say, okay, thank you, we're gonna use the state aid for this, and now you have to reconsider. I mean, that's what their argument was on the recording, basically, was we have this money that we could try using for experimental purposes or whatever. And now we, for lack of a better word, bow down to that request. So going forward, we could say to them, hey, we've listened to you, thank you. We've proven that we need this, or we've shown that we've used this and we need it.
Okay, I don't know how I feel about twisting the state aid budget philosophy to do this. I put this on the table because I think we should discuss it as an option. I think that is important for us to think about, especially as we're opening this team space and we're thinking about the programming that we want to offer. That was part of the idea of pre-existing construction space. I think there's another principle that we need to consider in this, which would strike against using state aid money in this way, and that's our longstanding argument that we need to shift from less part-time to more full-time staff at the library. That one of the things is we don't fully staff our library and create the opportunities for growth here that would maintain a staff for longer periods of time, and adding a level of contingent staff that we are paying out of a state aid budget undermines that longstanding argument. And so there's a strong, I think, argument to make that, we do the analysis of our staffing and we provide a report to finance committee, to the town, about what our true needs are based on our understanding of the current and future program of the library. That reaffirms this idea that we want to shift to a larger percentage of our staff being full-time staff, and that makes a strong case for a full staffing of teen reference librarians.
Yeah, and that's consistent with what Liz was saying also, in terms of, waiting to see this staffing report.
I think that is, I'm gonna come out and say, I think that's very reasonable, like to say, but we're up against a hard deadline. Like the teen room opens in 2 months.
I'm also very skeptical that we get a report that says what we need, but we're not gonna get it because
Right, I mean, like,
benefits cost so
that kind
much
of report's gonna
more.
take months and months and months, and then have to go through processes and whatever. And yes, we should do that. But if we were talking about, we need to hire a teen librarian in 15 months, it'd be a very different conversation than the space opens in 2 months.
And
I think
really,
it's a very fair point.
Yes,
I think it's
absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
we should be considering, I think they're all really good points. Like other areas, doesn't seem clear either way what to do in balancing these needs. I think it's really good we're airing these out, talking about more to think of and more input to hear from the staff and what the plan is without this position or the coupling together.
one other thought on the staffing is that to the extent that that's an additional expense, we'll be competing against ourselves, because we're also going to be looking at that time for the approval of the children's renovation. Right?
Yes, next year, right?
Yes, I mean, they're slightly different.
Yeah,
money, but yes.
they're different.
But ultimately, we're asking you,
Yeah.
in the end, you have to decide what you're comfortable with in terms of.
Or we're
Meeting the
hearing, we'd
library.
probably would want to hear from you folks about how much we, want this position. Should we advocate for it? Should we fund it? How much of a deficit are you, the staff, the library going to experience if we don't? So I don't know if that's something you want to communicate, figure out, or, come to us with, a recommendation, I guess.
Yeah.
Would it perhaps make sense to bring this up and discuss it at the March meeting, and that will give Rob and Diana some time to think about this and weigh it and see if that's something that you think would make sense to get a vote on.
Yep. And come up with other counter proposals as well that maybe use these state aid funds. I'm thinking the trustees did something extraordinary and exceptional to produce the library's website outside of the normal budget processes. And that was, I think we agree, a good decision. And so if there were extenuating circumstances that made this necessary and found a way that we could support it, I think.
All right, in the interest of time, should we move on to, was there any director's report?
Yeah, just sorry. Quickly on the trust fund report, I just want to note on the expenditures listed in the the director's report, you'll note that we have some museum pass renewals listed. So you'll see that continuing because we've now changed the process for how the Friends are paying for costs that they're approved. So they are giving us one lump sum check, which we deposit in the permanent donation fund, one of our trust funds, and which we pay the bills out of. So that we're taking the clerical work off of the Friends treasurer and taking that on to pay the bills. But it is their money still that is funding these. Yes, and some other things listed here. The Reading to Connect, the dementia support program is money from them, and the adult and children's programming. So you'll see more trust fund expenditures that are outside of the trust fund spending report because they're PDF related and monies the Friends have given us.
So, and they're listed in under the trust fund expenditures, or
right so the permanent donation fund, those expenditures are specifically
what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Is it worth like saying which ones are that new process? Or does that not matter?
If you're interested, we know, but
yeah,
most everything under the permanent donation fund is money we received from the Friends for these specific purposes. Just one other thing on the trust funds. So you may be wondering or staying up at night wondering why you have not seen a calendar year 2026 trust fund spending report yet from us. That's because Treasurer's Department is severely understaffed right now, and we haven't received a report of the interest earned by our trust funds in FY25. Normally in the fall, we receive that, and then we put together the spending report for the trustees in December, January to approve. So we're still waiting for that information before we bring forward that spending plan for this calendar year. So we are into the second month of the calendar year, but most of that spending usually focuses around supporting materials expenditures in the summertime. So there's no negative impact to this delay at this point. On the statistics, the January statistics report, again, this is just our temporary monthly report until we get a full year under our belt and can show comparison data to you. So some of that 14,000, most of that 14,000 are those Libby checkouts that I'll drill down into daily numbers to get out to you, to all of you tomorrow. So it's been a cold January, but busy here at the library as people venture out into the cold to seek community and good stories at the library. I did include the most up-to-date phase 1 budget that Hank provided. Just want to draw your attention to the bottom, the current contingency summary. So our current contingency balance is $288,000. And we have the right-hand column, balance to finish is $917,000. So we are on budget, but also are more than likely to, as you can see, the anticipated contingency balance is well over $200,000. So looking to wrap up this project with that balance. It's contingency, so I don't know if that counts as under budget or not, but it is extra money that we probably won't use and will gladly give it back to the town.
That 288, I think is gonna.
Right, there
go
are
back to the town.
anticipated costs here of 77,
Right.
so anticipated balance at the end is the 210, but as of now, it's the 288.
Can we keep about 40,000 for?
Yeah.
We might have been able to fix that real quick.
But when the town considers its budget, does it take into account that they're getting back some money?
That's a good point.
Unfortunately,
You know,
not.
It's not the town, it's the finance committee.
So, moving on, I think we talked enough about the FY27 operating budget request. I included that in the report, some information about that. The DIB staff efforts are listed here. I just want to note, I don't know if Jay was there on Sunday, I don't think so, but the Friends had a spectacular lecture by Dr. Singleton.
I was going to mention it, yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, when I get my friend's report, I'm just going to mention, but please, you were there, you said, because I wasn't
It
able
was
to
great.
attend.
We had 82 people come out before the Super Bowl on that freezing day, and
Oh.
they were wrapped. They listened to every word Dr. Singleton. Nobody opened a piece of candy. Nobody left the room to go to the bathroom. It was amazing. She was great. She spoke. She's the executive director of the Royal House and Slave Quarters in Medford.
Yes.
She talked about slavery in Massachusetts. It was great. It's not going to be on the YouTube channel for her request, but it was recorded. So it was just fantastic. Everybody was super happy. And we're happy to have had a display in support of that lecture in January. And moving on, the new and withdrawn report is also listed here, and
But
yes,
it seems like there's a whole extra page that doesn't need to be there.
I spent 10 minutes trying to
Get rid of that.
delete that page
That happens
in
to me
all
all the
sorts of
time.
ways.
Is it
And
just like keep with next on the chart, so it has to be kept with the footnote?
I am
or
writing
something?
that down because
Or-
I was ripping my hair out. Like,
And it also has a link
Because
to, it also
and
has
I
a link
knew,
to this here, so it's good.
somebody's
What is
gonna
that?
mention it, so thank you.
You're
Josh.
welcome.
Um,
Didn't get rid of that either?
But, what's that?
You couldn't get rid of that either, the link?
Oh,
Oh, the
I
link.
forgot about it.
Oh.
Sorry
I
about
tried
that.
to link there, but I got
It doesn't actually
rejected.
open
We
anything.
know, yeah, we got those messages. It says internal staff things. I can provide that in a
I got this message back that
non-wiki
says
way.
denied access.
Yeah, 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 so, okay. Moving on to less,
Thank you for trying.
keep with next, I will never forget that.
Yeah, it's in like the paragraph format.
It was. I didn't ask you, Diana. I always ask Diana for all this tech help. I'm like, for once, I'm going to figure this out. And then after 10 minutes, I'm like, oh, I'm just sending it.
Maybe someone won't mention it.
Trustees are too good. So, yes, that's the end of the director's report.
Great, thank you, Rob. I think the next item on the agenda is to review and accept the list of gifts. Gifts listed, 18,000 from the LFN, 250 from Ellen Knizeski, and 325 from Anonymous.
Just to note on the LFN, we're doing the same thing we're doing with the Friends. They are just giving one lump sum of approved grants, which we're depositing into the PDF and then paying the bills out of that instead of their treasurer doing that work.
Got it.
And did Ellen Kuznetsky and our anonymous donor designate any particular use for their donation?
Policy.
Right.
For the donation policy. Can.
No, and, the new donation policy, I think has a 500 or higher.
Oh, that's right. It has to be, right. It can be, it doesn't have to be reported under 500, right?
Well, thanks to the donors and obviously to the Library Foundation for such an important.
I guess I will move to accept the gifts.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great.
Have we ever not accepted a gift? People should know that we're.
We're unanimous in favor of gifts.
Thank you to the donors for those gifts. Next item is a midpoint review of FY26 action plan, which Diana will be presenting.
Yes, I'm happy to be here to be sharing our progress so far for the FY26 action plan. We have 23 action items for this fiscal year, and we've made quite some progress. For goal 1, objective 1, reevaluating the technology plan. Danielle has worked really hard and she's completed that particular plan. So this is looking at what the plan is for this year and up to FY28. So she's thought about for every single year what we can anticipate. So she's completed that plan. We also, for objective 1, we plan to make customer service standards and implement it. We are almost complete with our customer service standards. We've pulled out 4 main themes, and we'll be working on training materials on staff day. So we've been having regular meetings to kind of tease out what we feel is important for us and for the patrons, and we'll be doing training on staff day.
Can I clarify that?
Yeah.
You said you're going to be discussing what those policies are on staff day, or you're actually going to be teaching them on staff day?
We'll be teaching them on staff day. So the group has been meeting regularly to kind of think about what our themes are, what we think are important, and then we're working on a training material for that. And then on staff day, we'll be training it. I think we've had, customer service it could be like binders and binders, or it could be 4 bullet points. And I think it's important for us to use something that it's intuitive and not something that we have to look up in a manual. So that's what we've been trying to distill. And then on staff day, we'll be doing the training. Another action item under objective 1 is to develop an FY 28-32 strategic plan. We had our first meeting to talk about our timeline. So this is to plan for FY 27 for the next phase of the strategic plan. We talked about whether or not we needed a consultant, what type of how big or how involved are we going to do it. So we've had a really productive initial meeting in January. Any questions so far about objective 1? You had questions. All right. So the next one is developing a uniform patron feedback questionnaire for all programs. We've been meeting about regularly on this as well to kind of talk about why it's important to get patron feedback on our programs and to make it consistent with all of our programs, because currently the children's department has their own feedback questionnaire. The adult department has their own questionnaire. So we're making it standard. So the questions are standard, and then we're also trying to have it online as well. So when people attend our program, if they share their email, we will automatically send them a feedback to a form. And then we hope to use the information to inform our programming for the next fiscal year. So the next one is, the previous one was patron feedback on programs. The next one is patron feedback just in general about the library and about our services. So this is just a standard kind of how are we doing type feedback form that's going to be printed It's basically asking, do you have any comments, suggestions, or feedback? And it's going to be at all different service desks. And then we'll have a process of just kind of how to answer that as well. And we'll have nice boxes where people can submit their comments, and then we respond to them as well. We're also consolidating all of our online forms to make it standard with this particular form. So that's coming up in the next few months. The next one is doing a staffing analysis to understand our current staff workflow. We've done the initial big part of sending this out to all of our staff in December. Every single staff member responded to a set of, I think, maybe 5 questions or something. So we are going to be working on analyzing those responses. The next one is a community outreach plan. We've had a few meetings to kind of decide what our definitions would be about outreach or engagement. And we're working on that plan to hopefully complete that in May. As you've heard, the community story time, the community leader story time has been happening, so that's completed. We had Katie King, and then we had Ginny. We'll have the police chief. We'll have the outreach police officer with their dog as well, so that's completed. The next one is assessing our adult programming plan. We haven't started that yet. We're going to really focus on that in the second half of this fiscal year. The next one is the Needham Poet Laureate, folding that into us, the library, owning it. And this has been completed because we fully own it. And then we're moving forward with selecting our new Poet Laureate.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Of course.
Owning the program, what does that mean in terms of the funding for the program? Because I know that this was in part created as a grant.
Right, there was a 1-year grant from the NCAC.
Needham Community Arts.
And Culture. The
Arts Council.
The
Right.
state funding for the arts that comes to Needham was a $500 grant. So it was a one-time grant. So there was no long-term funding plan for it. So we incorporated $2,000 into our FY26 library state aid spending plan to help support that for this fiscal year.
So we're now funding it through state aid. That's through our state aid.
Currently we are.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's been really successful, and yes. So.
And at some point it may no longer be
innovative.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure we were thinking about that.
Thank you for that question. The next action item is providing programming and services for teen patrons during the phase 1 construction. This is in progress. Erin, our teen librarian, has been doing various programs with the Pop Art Art School. Last weekend or so, she had mini golf at the rec center and had 40 people or so that was really fun. So that's in progress. The next one is creating a communications plan. Specifically, this is going to be a multi-year project, but we're focusing specifically on improving our signage, email communication, and library website. Some initial improvements have been made to our library newsletter and our website, and we're continuing to work with that. That continues into this next one, which is creating a style guide for the library. We've reached out to a vendor that specifically provides services to libraries so they understand what library needs are. So we're starting that work to get this manual that provides a style guide specific for us, and that will help us with our communication plan as well.
I want to just note that one thing we talked about last year was that we hoped that the trustee annual report could eventually be a document that conforms to the style guides and helps test some of those style guides once they're in place. So I just wanted to put that in mind as a
The next action item is, this is completed. This is identifying, scope of work, for our, assessing our archives collection. So Rob mentioned earlier, he's meeting with the consultant and, the proposal was created and, the consultant has been, coming in to, kind of assess our materials and our collection. The next one is the local history collection will be assessed, weeded, and to see if there are any needed added materials that need to be added. This work is 75% done. Daniel has been working on kind of assessing what needs to be weeded, and then looking at what gaps we may need to purchase additional materials to add to the local history. The next is the relocation of the large print collection. This is completed. We did a big moving and relocating, and so that is complete now on the ground floor. And this is a big all hands on deck collaboration with library staff. So
Thank you so much for that.
we did a lot of moving and improved access
And we can
to.
see the results.
Yes.
So that's completed. The next one is reviewing our database subscription and usage. This work is in progress. We've started looking at tracking our use, and then the next step will be kind of assessing what needs to be promoted based on use and popularity. Collection development policy is another one that we're working on this fiscal year. We've done regular meetings, but it is something that is an important work. We've been meeting just to kind of be on the same page of what we think are important criterias to add to our collection development policy. So this is ongoing. The next action item is updating our patron purchase request form. So this is basically making it a seamless process where patrons can request something online, and then the appropriate selectors will be able to respond appropriately. They just met again this morning, so that's ongoing. The next item is developing a plan that is to anticipate patron technology needs in the future. This is in progress. Daniel's been working on this specifically on phase 2, 3, and 4. So that is in progress. The next one is standardizing the cataloging and processing of physical items in the children's room. So we do have, right now, certain formats are cataloged by different ways. So we just want to make sure that all the process is standard and we're all on the same page of how we do it. That's ongoing, in progress. The next action item here is if grant funds become available to the town, a plan to install EV charging stations at the library is something that we want to look at. This is in progress. Rob has been meeting with our sustainability manager, and this is in progress. A final check-in on the feasibility of this will happen in March.
Question,
Yes.
is that going to be this part of the parking lot here? Because this is the library and out there belongs to the church, right?
Right, so the last time we discussed, it would be in the Highland Avenue parking lot,
Okay,
which would require the church to sign off on it,
okay,
but it's easier to install on this side,
right,
closer to the building where it needs to be.
right,
The parking space is right up against the building.
right up against the building, okay. Oh, okay, but that yeah, I know where you, exactly where yeah, I got you. Good call. Thank you.
And the last item here is
with the approval of funding by the town meeting. Construction begins in September and is completed in February, and now in April. Library staff work to ensure staff and patrons' safety during project while providing updates and maintaining patron access to library collections, services, and programming. We've been meeting regularly to ensure a smooth transition to the construction phase, and now we have also been trying to meet now weekly to kind of plan when the collection is going to be happening, the ribbon cutting ceremony, who to invite, so that has been happening as well. Now we're meeting more intensely every week to plan the details on transitioning to opening now. So, a lot of library staff involved in a lot of work, and so we made a lot of progress on our FY26 action plan. So,
Yes, very impressive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amazing the amount of balls you've got in the air and things completed and initiated.
In June, in conjunction with giving a draft of FY27 action plan, which will be much shorter because we're doing the strategic plan in FY27. We'll do a final report on our FY26 progress, but we just wanted to give a progress report to trustees.
Thank you, Robin, Diana, and library staff for everything that went into that. And, the next meeting, we can talk about the annual review, which will be coming up in the remaining months of the fiscal year. We can always try and knock as much of that out as we can in May and June.
Seems like with the addition of extra staff, especially Diana and the assistant director position, it's going to make it much easier than previous years.
Thank you.
for the support of the trustees to approve all the.
So moving on, keeping an eye on the clock, we still have a decent amount of ground to cover. The next item is a discussion of the team room policy. This is listed as discussion and vote, but given that the team room will be opening up in April, it's not mandatory that we vote on it today. There was a draft team room policy that was circulated with the packet of materials. Michael and I reviewed that, marked it up. The idea behind that is just to mock up what a policy might look like. This is not necessarily what we think it has to look like, in our opinions. But the idea was to put it into practice about what it would look like. And very briefly, I can talk to the changes that are reflected in this red line, if you've got a copy of it. The first change was to strike the words after school and on weekends. What I was hearing at the January meeting, and Michael as well, is that it sounded like there was pretty strong support for keeping the team room open during all library hours, if at all possible, in order to kind of maximize its utility to the community. So we struck those words. And then we added a bracketed clause at the end of the first paragraph. Originally, the policy said the use of space is reserved for teens, period. The bracketed language clarifies or changes it so that it's reserved for teens after school and on weekends. During school hours only, patrons of all ages could use the teen room for quiet study and have to relocate to other portions if requested by staff. Again, that's just mock-up language to try to put into words what I heard from some trustees at the January meeting, just so we can all see what that might look like. Not necessarily that it wouldn't have to be formulated that way. And then the last change is a bracketed sentence at the end. And this was just something that Michael and I were thinking. It's an acknowledgement that this policy is being put into place before the teen room opens. And the actual usage of the teen room, none of us knows exactly how that's going to play out. There could be challenges that we're not even thinking of that arise, or there could be challenges that we think will arise that don't materialize as much as we think they will. So this is just an acknowledgement for the record as part of this policy that we will revisit that. And we revisit all of our policies, but this one in particular, This is kind of just putting a pin in it to remind us that, we will revisit it once we have some better data about how this room is utilized, one way or the other, regardless of which approach we take to the policy. So, again, keeping an eye on the clock, what I was thinking, let me know what your thoughts are, but I was thinking it might be good just to take the temperature. We've had a few meetings to discuss this policy now and had some very productive debate and discussion. Would it make sense to just go around the table and just have each trustee speak for a minute or so about where your mind is at with this policy and with these alternatives or with different alternatives? Would that make sense, or do you think we should just open it up for general discussion?
Well, I just wanted to say this as part of this whole thing is just that we always, in Rob and myself, in thinking and talking about this, everything on the table is up for amendment. It's not something in concrete, but it's really something to make sure we are collectively on the same page or close enough to it that we can eventually vote on something so that we have a policy in place to some degree that we can feel comfortable with, that we decide as a group. I think that's critically important that we're together with that.
So are you okay?
I don't think I need to speak on it, so I don't know if we necessarily have to have everybody speak. I'm happy to listen and to hear what other folks have to say if people have strong thoughts on it.
I'll say this feels good to me. The one thing that is not even something that was redlined, but feels like a clause that is in the wrong place, I'm not sure how to move it, is the patrons of all ages may actively browse in the collection in the teen room. Feels, my question is that patrons of all ages may actively browse in the teen room at all times, or just during the times when it is open to all patrons and not open? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if that clause should be there.
I think it's there as to precede the next one, the next sentence, which indicates those times in which it's reserved specifically for teens.
Yeah, but I don't think that that's what we wanted. At least from my recollection of discussions is people should be able to browse it at all times. They just can't stay in there.
So perhaps that sentence could come after, you almost could switch the order of those sentences.
Correct.
So that you could say the use of the space is reserved for teens and then modify it or don't. However, patrons of all ages may actively browse the collection at all times.
Yeah.
I would just, the only comment I would have is I browse, but I don't know that I browse actively. I don't know.
Well, I would think that it's more like you're looking for a book to grab and then leave.
Exactly.
That's the intent. That's compared to being able to
browsing.
Yeah, you're not
That's not browsing.
That's not
That's
grabbing.
Browsing is to look.
Looking for a particular book.
Or looking.
No, you walk through the shelf, say this one looks interesting, put it off the shelf, look at it, put it back. You're like,
But you're not sitting down
What-
in the teen room to read portions of it. and
Correct.
Make your decisions. You go in and grab 3 titles maybe and then leave the teen room to look at it and then leave them to be reshelved or check them out.
I don't know what the standard is when a browse becomes active, but okay.
You gotta get out more.
You know it when you see it.
Yeah, you're
You gotta get
looking
out.
at the bookshelves and not the patrons or
yes.
the game that's going on or.
Is this a term of art in the library?
For active browsing.
Is there a definition?
So we don't have to go around. We can also just open it up for open debate, but I just thought it would be good to hear everybody's voices tonight, even if we don't take a vote. And also Rob mentioned that, that staff is kind of looking into what staffing would look like in order to keep this room open as much as possible. Is that sort of accurate, Rob?
Yes, we will.
I think the policy needs to support what the library is going to be able to do, given the fact that we're not getting the library from the town at this point. So we need to make sure we have that information before we vote on anything is what I would say. So it's like we don't want to write a policy that
Well, that's why we have
conflicts
the
with
clause
that.
about that is actively being looked at
Right.
going forward.
But I want it to be something that will support the staff as they are supporting the teams that are in there. And I don't want to put an unnecessary burden, I guess, on the staff in a policy that might be too hard to do, or however it is that we end up managing it.
In looking at the policy, the part of it that is very difficult and just to be point blank, the general public coming into this library don't really care. I want to say it nicely and succinctly. I don't think they particularly care that this, or this is not in place. A patron coming in just wants to know that I'm walking in that room, getting this experience, getting out. We understand the nuances that need to take place to make things happen. The person from the general public just wants to make sure that they are receiving whatever it is experience they think that they should have. And that's, I'm with you in making sure that the staff is comfortable, but the general public, that's not their major concern. Their major concern is when they walk through that door, can I walk in that room? Can I get what I need to get? Stay, get out, whatever that is. And that's just the reality of doing business as a Needham Free Public Library.
I think that's a fair point. I think signs that say, teen room for teen, like we have some of it here with the rules. They're even shorter as like, if the doors are closed, it says teen room or whatever would make it,
Right.
I would think, readily apparent to our average library user that this is not where they're going to go and set up and hang out all day if they are not a teen.
So I'm happy about a couple of things about this draft and where it's currently at. One is that we're very explicit about who this teen room is primarily for, and that there's times in which we expect it to be kind of their exclusive use. I'm also glad that we're not talking about locking the doors, because I think that puts us out of step with the policies that we see in other libraries and with the spirit of our library. I think there's the question marks that remain for me are about, whenever you create a policy, does that policy have teeth or not, right? And so with our staffing plan around this, that'll be a big component of whether or not this policy has teeth, right? Not only do we have somebody who's in there in that reference desk and working with teams during that time, but are we having librarians make regular sweeps through the space at certain times that are about enforcing this policy? Do we have signage that's creating friction around folks using this space in one way or another? Right? And so that's all part of, I think, the ways that that the library staff has to figure out how does this get enacted such that it really holds to it being a space that's reserved for teams while also not barring people from using it, but making it clear that there is there are appropriate uses and inappropriate uses of this space.
Right.
A question mark I have, another question mark I have, because I have a question mark about what is that staffing plan that makes sure that this policy has teeth? What is that signage campaign going to look like? The other one has to do with the fact that we captured data right here in our comparisons around tutoring being prohibited or not prohibited, right? And I don't know when you gathered that data, whether those were explicitly drawn from policy or whether that was in conversation with staff and how they manage those spaces. But what's interesting about our current set of policies is I don't think we actually name tutoring anywhere across those policies. We have a study room policy that talks about the reservation and limitations for using those study rooms, which implies a limitation of tutoring in those spaces. But I don't think we have a clear tutoring or not tutoring policy for the library as a whole or given specific spaces. And so that's a gap if we care about the use of this space with regard to tutoring. And so I'm curious about how we want to respond to that.
Did we not say that I could be mistaken, did we not say that tutoring could take place with student to student, but not adult to student? Was that something we had talked about before, a couple of meetings before?
I know we've talked about it in general about
Right.
this. I don't know if we've ever crafted policy language for that.
What would be the reasons for having a special policy around tutoring?
Because an adult would be in that room. And I think at that point in time.
Is that what it is? That we're talking about adults in the teen room? Is that?
We're talking about somebody using that space for their tutoring business.
Yes, right.
Right,
Yeah,
where they
that
are
was the-
meeting in that designated space for an hour or two. And this would be a prime location to do that off hours when teens aren't there. And so the question is, do we have explicit language or other things that we do in terms of staffing and sweeping and so forth around that?
Has this been an issue in the library up until now?
I believe the creation of a tutor policy is on our plan for the policy work that the board is doing. But when you say, has this been an issue, what do you mean?
Up until now, is there anything that we're aware of going on with tutoring that we would be concerned about, or in the library?
No. But lots of people keep bringing it up who don't work in the library. So, anyways, but when we create a tutoring policy, we can talk about this. There aren't issues, but
who's bringing it up? People who'd like to do tutoring? I'm just trying.
Or just like it just comes up in discussion randomly.
Just sort of like, you can't let those tutors blah blah blah.
Oh.
Like,
but they don't, so it doesn't really matter. Like,
And,
as
you
far
know,
as you know,
honestly,
they don't.
The finance committee has brought it up also, in terms of should we be allowing people to use,
I'm just looking at
as
ourselves compared to other institutions and wondering, is there a policy here? How does that affect this teen room?
Right. Just to one of your questions, the tutoring section, Erin reached out to her colleagues, her cohorts, her teen librarians, so she got that information from them in that column. But currently, yes, I mean, if it depends on which policy is voted on and approved and how that affects whether tutors, meaning adults, are in that space or not. So even under the draft, after school hours and on the weekends, adults are not allowed in that space. So that would mean tutoring would not be occurring in that room. So tutoring occurring during school hours in that space, I'm not sure that would happen frequently. But also the revision here says quiet study only. So,
tutoring would not be allowed.
So I'm just not sure what the
I
question
can't imagine
is.
there won't be I can't imagine we'd want to ban like peer-to-peer tutoring. Like,
That's more group study.
So I'm
I'm not
raising the
sure-
question
I don't
because I see it
understand.
listed here as something that is clearly other libraries care about. And if this is a space in which that is a question, should we have policy language about it? It should be driven, we should derive policies based on the needs that we have for running this library. I'm not saying we just need to, create this because it sounds like a good idea.
So one thing I would mention, because I reviewed these peer library policies, and the tutoring here, the ones that are highlighted, I believe it's the ones highlighted in yellow. Erin had done some follow-up research to determine if tutoring was prohibited either just de facto or under other policies. But not all of the teen policies address tutoring. In fact, about half just didn't address it at all. And it lived in other policies or was just kind of a separate rule. So that's a question. Do we want the tutoring policy to live here? Or is it something that we want to apply if we do have a policy in tutoring? Do you want it to apply to the entire library? Because presumably if you don't want somebody tutoring the teen room, you may not want them tutoring in a study carrel or a study room.
I'm not here or there about the tutoring policy. I'm asking the question because we're talking about this as a timeline where we want this in place by the time the team room's open. And if one of those question marks for us is, do we need a tutoring policy that is part of this, that is referenced as one of the, this, policy applies as well here, and that's important to us, then we need to figure out whether or not we're going to create some language about that in the near term.
And, and I'll admit I'm looking at AI very quickly just to get a sense about, but some libraries, for example, might allow tutors, but forbid tutors from using the library as a sort of regular place of business or office. That would be one way to address. There are ways to address some concerns while not necessarily prohibiting, tutoring.
Can I say this? What's really interesting about that, just piggybacking on a little bit of what Erhard was saying, even this community room, you cannot do something for profit down here. So why would it be any different from upstairs to somebody? Why would we allow somebody upstairs to do their business up there, but you can't have anything where you make money down here? And this is the community room, not just a singular person, but that goes for anything or anyone that comes in here. So.
Sure. Which I think speaks to what I suggest is we consider the tutoring discussion for another day and another policy, and that we should focus on, the teen policy and assume that once we put a tutoring policy in place, we can include the teen room or designate different tutoring policies for different spaces. But that for now, I think the tutoring issue is kind of a sideline that maybe we shouldn't try to go down that rabbit hole at the moment.
I do believe that Erhard is absolutely correct that there has to be some kind of signage or just something to some way articulate that this is what their anticipation or expectation is moving forward, kind of a thing. I think that's always good just to have that in place. So if somebody says, well, I didn't, the sign's right there, that kind of thing. So in a calmer kind of way.
And it is interesting because you just, various, I'm looking at the Weston Library tutoring policy. There's something to be gained from looking at the different tutoring policies when we get to it at the libraries.
Yes.
For the teen policy, I made my views pretty clear in the last couple of meetings. I could work with this. It does allow during school hours patrons to access the teen room for quiet study only. And if that is something that the library staff can work with, I would agree with how it's written here. And I'm willing to sort of, come to a consensus and be flexible about that. But at the moment, the way this reads works for me.
Yeah, it sounds like the information we need is from the library who haven't had a chance yet to figure out the plans for the staffing and how they're going to handle it to see if this would work with the team reinforcement is a very good point as well. So maybe if we have any more feedback on what it is here, I don't know how much more we can go on it without that plan for the library.
And Rob, with the information that you're gathering, would that, in terms of figuring out how could we cover this from, during school hours, would that inform, from your perspective, would that inform whether or not it would be worth considering allowing grown-ups in to use the room during school hours, and in some sense, given that there would be a person there kind of keeping an eye on things? Does that address some of the concerns of grown-ups using the room?
Well, we would do that work in anticipation that the trustees want to adopt this proposed amendment. If the room was not being open during school hours, we wouldn't develop a dedicated staffing plan for the space. So
Right. I think
Knowing that there's a general consensus that this may happen, then we need to come up with a plan for Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 2:30, and what can we do to have staff in there, whether dedicated or sweeping on a regular basis through the space if teens are in there and adults are in there at the same time.
To the extent that you can, and if you can't, then that's something we need to know and adjust accordingly, of course. It seems a bit of cart before the horse type situation.
The plan would have all sorts of asterisks
Right.
for people on vacation or sick or all sorts of things that come up that would affect an ideal plan of coverage.
I guess my question, like, and maybe this is just me, but like, if there's a sign, like, it doesn't have to say this exactly, but if there's a sign out, like the two doors that go in that says, you know, this space is reserved for teens, exactly what it says in here. This space is reserved for our teen patrons when school is closed and on weekends. You know, adults, I'm not sure what order, but adults, please leave the space at that time, or, you know, are not allowed to use the space at those times. I mean, honestly, like, are there really that many people who are gonna be painful about it? Or not going to say, especially this, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I would see that sign, I'm like, okay, I'll leave at 2:30.
Well, I think it's possible, and I think that's why we initially said we've got to see what data once it
Right.
opens, but we do need to have something in place. I also was thinking of an announcement, like the ones we've been hearing about the library closing, you know, like the teen room is closing to general public use. It's only available for teens in a half an hour, you know, please clear out, in addition to sweeps or anything like that. Yes, I'm also a reasonable person who would look at the sign and see like teen room, oh, I'm not teen, am I allowed to be in here? But not everybody.
Right, I mean, that's the question, I just don't know, are there people that are really that unreasonable? I mean, I suppose they must be.
They might,
Yes.
they might, yeah.
Yeah,
they
there
might-
must be.
yeah.
There are.
Or they just ignore it, or, you know, they see
And
quiet
I,
area.
and I had said earlier, I said, you know what? I think that the teen room, honestly, just to avoid all that, an hour before school gets out, it's closed. That just, you know, you can have people kind of, you don't necessarily with adults have to have somebody sitting there looking at them. As long as there's a presence and just somebody moving in and out of that area, they could come in every 15, 20 minutes, you know, and.
Do you even need that? Like, you need them to come in at 2:15. Like,
Well, before that room closes, you definitely need
sure,
somebody.
but like,
go
whatever
through.
time you said the room closes, you need them to come in 10 minutes before that space closes and say, hey, in 20 minutes, this space is available only for teens.
Right.
Please make your way out.
Right.
Like,
That makes sense.
especially if there's signage out front that says,
It
what the policy-
just amplifies
Yeah,
the
exactly.
message. Yeah.
but I don't think, like, I don't know that you need people quote sweeping the space like every hour, every half an hour, whatever. I mean, like,
Well, you want to know that if there were, what was there, a big push of people playing something called Mahjong or something? Mahjong, I don't
I
even
just
know.
learned it's awesome.
So
So
it's-
fun.
It's a big-
but are people like,
So you'll be in there, that's what you're
No,
telling me.
are people
I will
something
be
with
playing at my
the
house.
rest of the spaces like on a regular basis? Like the other day, I was all the way in the back of the fiction section here. Like I was my wife wanted me to get a book for her that was like way, way in the back. And I heard someone like clearly like reading something out loud. Like I wasn't really paying attention to what it was. But my point being is they were all the way in the back there. There was no staff back there. Is there staff going back there regularly to check on, and how often are they doing that?
Right. I don't think people make that, but I think in terms of.
But I mean, like I'm
for the-
literally asking staff
for
right now, like,
something,
how often do you guys do that?
well, they will logistically figure that out. I think that's what Megan was saying. But the other part of it is that, yes, there would probably be a good idea if, okay, say 4 teenagers walked in there. What happens after that? So you want to just go through just to check, that's all.
And I think the thing that's different about this space is that it is enclosed with doors. There are certainly other spaces in the library that you don't have sight lines on that people sometimes use, but perhaps not as regularly as this space will be used. But you could imagine a scenario where there's a security risk or something, and you know, having some level of supervision, whether it's somebody always there or doing periodic walkthroughs might help to avert that.
But why is there any more security risk there than there's like deep in the stacks? Like, that's just what I
But
don't
in
really
practice,
understand.
there are probably fewer people kind of camping out deeper in the stacks.
We could just ask the staff.
Yeah, like,
And find out.
like how
you think
often you
about
guys,
that.
yeah, that's what,
You
like, I'm
sweep
curious, like, how often you
theory.
sweep down deep into the stacks to see if there are people, right, whatever. Like, do you guys have a policy, like an internal policy for that?
We don't have an internal policy for that.
Do you think?
I don't think the spaces are equivalent. I think we need to do our work and come up with a plan to see what we can do, whether it's dedicate staff to that space Monday through Friday, 9 to 2:30, or a plan for staff to regularly sweep through there. So any teens who are in the space feel comfortable, period. That's our number one priority with this space.
Without the addition, the amendment that's here, we're already talking about allowing adults to actively browse, even during school hours during the day when there's not going to be teens in there. So the addition, this only allows adults to then sit down for quiet study. So the only real change here is going from allowing active browsing at all times to allowing, be able to sit and do quiet study. So it's not really a huge difference. And I guess, I wonder how much difference does it make to staff if an adult's in there actively browsing versus actually sitting and quietly reading. It doesn't seem like a huge change to me, but maybe I'm missing something.
Well, the difference is that in the proposed draft, the team room was open during library hours after school and on weekends.
Okay, so
if you wanted to actively browse the collection, staff would let you in to do so.
Staff would have to let you in, but we're not going to. We've kind of decided it's not going to be locked. So,
but that's the big change, is what I'm saying.
That's what the change.
That's the big change, is that we are now saying it is open all the time.
Right. Okay. So that's
Proactive browse.
They call it the Fialkov rule.
Or for quiet study.
More for curiosity's sake, Bob, if it was only open during those hours and somebody needed to
During
be
which
on.
hours?
Sorry, the previous one, when it was only open after school and on weekends. If I, as an adult, wanted to actively browse, would the reference librarian stay with me while I'm in there, or would they just unlock it?
It would depend on.
Okay, you hadn't thought
who
that
else
far.
is in there. If nobody's in there, how busy are staff been helping other patrons or whatnot? If
Got it.
nobody else was in there, said, oh, if you need help, let us know. Otherwise, if they're busy, they would leave. Like, we haven't talked
Right.
through this.
Yeah, you hadn't got that part, that's
completely.
fine. I
But
was
if
just-
there were homeschools teens in there, they may stay in there while you actually browse for a few minutes and make sure you exit,
Yeah, okay.
Things are very situational.
Understood.
I so quite.
I don't
fluid.
want to burden the staff is what I'm trying to get at, and so I'd love to know what the staff thinks is feasible with this. Again, back to the cart before the horse stuff. So I don't know if there's any other points that the trustees wanted to discuss that we can go through on this. Rob, if you wanted to point out anything else.
I was thinking we should, at this point, it sounds like, Rob is going to get back to us at the March meeting with some more thoughts about how this could feasibly be done. And that's going to be probably the most important information for us in deciding on voting for a final policy. Also, again, with an eye on the clock, I don't want to go too late unless, does anybody feel like we should discuss anything else right now before we come back? But I wanted to thank Rob and Diana for thinking about this, first of all, but also for looking into this over the next month and seeing how this might be done. I know that there's a lot of competing considerations here, and we just all want to kind of get it right and maximize this room and just have it be a huge success for the community. So thank you, and look forward to hearing, what your thoughts are at the March meeting. So moving on, we go to the Library Art and Exhibit Committee report.
We will need some couple of votes tonight, and I'm going to pass around. I'm not sure I have quite as enough copies as we need, but.
Well, it's up there too.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I'll pass these in your direction. Okay, so we did meet on January 15th. We have one unfortunate thing which happened, which is our artist for February chose not to show up. So our cases are empty for February, despite having reached out to this person quite a number of times. And, you know, the person did agree more than once by phone, but then did not move forward. So that's too bad. But then we're looking at March. So we have reached out to a ceramic artist for the case. This is just for the cases. The gallery's not open yet. His name is Fritz Reinhardt. He is a really accomplished ceramic artist and a staff member at the Potter Shop and School. Those are two examples. He does functional wear. And he also does sort of decorative, often ocean-related sculptural pieces. So we will need to vote on him. And just to march through the rest of the year, we have March. Okay, so the question was, we do have Susan Woodworth, the watercolorist, lined up for March, but is it sounding like we're going to have the gallery opened or not during March?
The temporary construction wall will be down
Okay. Oh,
on
okay.
March 1st.
So
We'll have that corridor back. for
Okay, so
patients
people
that-
can, yes, free up the space around the stairwell. Okay, so we'll continue. We have already voted for March, April, May, and June. The next 4 months. July and August, we have open. And we'll need a vote for September. We have reached out to Jamaica Plain artist, Kevin Gillespie, who did a nice exhibit at the Jamaica Plain Library. And so one of our art committee members, Vicky Garby, it was Vicky, who actually was Earn a Place, sorry, who saw his work and reached out to him. I guess Vicky Garby reached out to him. And so he has agreed to come in for us in September. He does landscapes all around the Boston region, so it's kind of local landscapes. And then for the rest of the year, we have already voted on Judith Hurwitz, an abstract artist from Newton. And also in November, December, we'll bring back the Needham Art Association for both the cases in the gallery wall. And I'll put up a couple motions. So the first motion, first of all, are there any sort of questions or anything about this lineup that anybody wanted to ask about?
Are we voting on the entire lineup?
No, we're just see where there's 2 spots where it says vote. One would be from Fritz Reinhardt for March, and the other vote will be for September for Kevin Gillespie. Because the others we've already approved.
Yes. Okay, I'm down.
I'm trying to fill in the gaps.
Thank you.
So I move to approve ceramic artist Fritz Reinhardt for the month of March. And do I have a second?
Second.
You can't have one vote for approving both?
I guess I could do
You want to
both.
do both?
Sure. In that case, I'll move to approve for March, Fritz Reinhardt, ceramic artist, and for September, watercolorist Kevin Gillespie. And I would need a second on that.
Second. All in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
All right, we did it. That's it.
Thank you very much, Kay. Next up is the MacGyver series.
We are on schedule. Dr. Judith Steen will be coming here on the 29th of March at 2 p.m. to probably like 3:30. What's very interesting about her is that she is a neurosurgeon at Harvard Medical School. This is one of her first opportunities. She goes around the world speaking to just doctors. And she was quite adamant, saying that she really wanted to speak to the general public and people that are caregivers and that have people in their families with either the beginning of dementia or they are caregivers dealing with people that have these real difficult times with that. But she is in queue. I've actually been able to get some, luckily Jay Ellen is here. We have some really nice flyers. I should have brought some in, but I think I gave you guys something of that before. So that is ingrained for that day. I would definitely invite people to come. I've been to going to places like what's at Newbridge on the Charles. I talked to somebody yesterday and they're handing that out. Dealt with somebody at the Dedham Savings who was a former neighbor, and they brought theirs to a memory cafe, brought these flyers to a memory cafe in Newton. I'm not sure. I think the last count we had about, as of right now, it's maybe 11 or 12 people. And this is just the beginning. We have just been out for about a week and a half now. So we'll see what happens. And I look forward to seeing some of you there, because this is something, if you're not directly affected by it, there's somebody you know that is, and maybe you can pass that on to them, that this would be a good idea. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't Dr. Stetson pass from the dementia? No?
Multiple sclerosis.
MS, okay, I thought it was dementia.
Well, thank you. I just registered. My dad has cognitive decline, and most recent report was probable Alzheimer's. So this is something that I've shared with my mom, who is also a physician, and my sister, who is also a physician. So hopefully, I just registered all three of us. So hopefully, we'll all be able to
The date again is what?
in here.
March 29th from, it's a Sunday, from 2 to, I'm pretty sure she's gonna go past 3 o'clock, because I think, you know, she works with the NFL, the NHL, Major League Baseball, WNBA, consulting. So this is something that will, you know, it's just one of those things that just crosses every kind of human line, and that people really, really might need help with, but may not have the platform to ask. And it's great that people are signing in, and I'm going to do everything in my power. You know, I lost a friend who was young to this, and they were 50, 54. And so it can strike at any time. So keeping that person in thought and prayer, it's just one of those things of making sure that we have this. And a great part about it, it might be one of her first times ever having an opportunity to talk to the general public, and we'll try to make sure that it's not the only time. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. That sounds like a really, really great program. And one
But I thank you guys, because we voted. That was the last person I asked. I said, if I could bring one more person in, and you give yourselves thanks that you guys decided that it was okay. And thank you, Rob and Diana. This could be something really special, and look forward to.
A great job with this.
Yes.
With the whole MacGyver series.
Well, I think the thing about the MacGyver series, and I feel bad for people who were there before me, they didn't have the latitude we're in COVID. Mm-hmm. And so that's really tough, but to keep us, I figured if I could do 7 of them, I'd do 7, but it's just to keep this going and making sure that this is something the next vice chair, this will be yours, and I'll be more than happy to help you, but it's like, it's not easy, but it's not that hard. You just have to make sure the people that you're asking are willing, and then you can go from there. Then you use your negotiation skills. So we try.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you all.
Great. So next up, we've got the Friends with Jay.
Well, they had another successful book sale at the beginning of the month. Always impressed by how much work goes on behind the scenes, both before and during and even after. So thanks to the Friends for that. Rob mentioned they had a very successful speaker, Dr. Singleton, about slavery in Massachusetts. There's a speaker on March 1st, Sunday, March 1st, Chris Schmidt, who's a friend of mine. He's an executive producer of Nova, PBS series Frontline, Nova, that GBH produces. And we've had some good experiences in the past with other GBH folks. The woman from Antiques Roadshow and from Masterpiece, they tend to fill up. They show clips of what's coming up. Should be very, very good. We just sort of announced it only maybe a week or so ago, and half the seats are reserved. So if you know anybody to promote that, that would be great. And am I forgetting anything else about other Friends activity? I don't think so. Okay, that's. Oh yeah, I would say this. I'm on the program committee for the Friends, and they're giving some thought as to who would be appropriate speakers for next year. And so, if anyone has any suggestions or ideas, we're open to that. We're in the process of starting to think of some names. Oh yes, Rob and I and three of the women who were on sort of running the program committee this week. We had a really nice visit last Sunday, I think it was, or Saturday, with the new bookshop of Needham, which is for all book lovers. I tell you to go there. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful space. They've done a really nice job. And we're happy to think, of possible ways we can work, work together. It seems like a great place for the town and for the community. I think it's right on Chestnut Street. Years ago, it used to be a printer. Then it was an antique store.
It's across from like the
Near
PI
Costas.
dermatology office thing.
Not far from Costas.
Yeah.
And I think there's already plans in place, following up on that meeting, that the Friends have worked it out with the bookshop, that they're having some events at the bookstore, but they had one event coming up where they thought they would get more people in the bookstore to accommodate, and they're working with the Friends to have the event right over here. So we're happy, we welcome them to the Needham community. We've been, lost without a bookshop to go along with our library.
There's a second bookshop.
And that's another story. There's apparently another, I don't know that we need it too, but
On the same street.
we have more than one pizza place and more than one nail salon. But it looks like there's gonna be another bookshop also.
That's good.
So in a few months.
Not a bad.
Earhart, do you have the update for LFN?
Sure. I wasn't able to attend their meeting in January, but I do have the minutes, and Rob was in attendance there, so you can fill in any details. One thing to know is that they're always looking for new members right now for the board. So if you know anyone who's interested in getting involved in the library, supporting the library, and volunteering in the community, they're looking for folks, especially folks that are interested in working on fundraising or technology and social media. So that's a thing that we should just keep in the back of our minds as we hear folks that are interested. They're like, oh, I'd love to support the library. Library Foundation is recruiting. They got a chance to tour the space with Rob at the time. And I know one of the things that they're working on and interested in is the new naming rights opportunities. And so that's in process to figure out what that looks like in terms of opportunities and in terms of also the rules and policies around it, right? Is it in perpetuity? Is it going to be time limited? How long, et cetera? So that's in the works. They were also, there was a request for them, I believe, Rob, to pay for the new interactive gaming table in the children's
It was
space.
an approved grant.
Yeah, improved grant. So the Library Foundation is funding that. It's a very popular item in the children's room, and it's kind of at end of use. And so replacing that is something the Library Foundation recently did. So that'll be for those of us who have little kids, it'll be a very obvious thank you to give to the foundation for supporting that once that's put in place. Anything I missed, Rob?
Thank you, Erhard. That brings us to trustee comments. Do we have any?
Just a quick question. Does anybody know, has anyone else pulled papers as far as anybody knows?
I dropped my note.
There are no one else who's taking out papers according to the website.
But mine are all in.
You're in, good.
Oh,
How many are up for reelection?
Earhart,
Three of
Megan,
us.
and Michael.
Okay,
I'm also running for town meetings.
Oh, you are?
The only one in my precinct, so you can vote for me, Jay.
Okay,
Please.
I will.
I'm also running for town meeting.
I'll vote for you and only you.
Are you?
I think it's gonna be, last I heard it's gonna be contested, the only ones that aren't IH.
He is not contested.
Are our tenures being contested this year?
No, that's what I was just asking.
We don't think so.
Not
We
yet.
don't think, that was my question.
Okay.
Rob and I are the ones that had it, we had to do a
Get to work.
contested race last, we
We're
actually had to work
contested.
It's not
Yes.
close.
That's democracy at work.
That's right.
Doesn't happen.
I'm a strong believer in the uncontested election.
You're undefeated, Jay.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody. I'm sorry that we went overtime, and thank you, Liz, for staying with us this whole time. But it was a lot of important stuff to talk about. So
Thank you, Liz.
before we officially adjourn, we do need a motion.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Good job.